To be honest, I don't know how to charge this without shooting it.
And I fell. Bounties. But he's dead for right now, so he's gonna leave us alone now.
Well, if I kill you, it's not my fault.
I don't believe that for a minute.
Oh, my armistice zone privileges are revoked.
No, it looked like I got hit by my own ship when I was getting out of the seat.
Another NPC. Yep, he's dead. All right, welcome everybody to State of the Verse. It's our weekly show that we give you all the information and news that's come out over the last week from the Star Citizen universe. As always, I'm Dark Hour 717 and also joined by Jay Scale as usual. And today we also have Mandalorian back with us for a second appearance. And how are you guys all doing?
I'm doing well.
Doing good, thanks.
It'd probably help if I got the screen up right.
Oh no, I see all
Oh,
the bits.
dang it. I changed the properties, that's why. This is what happens when you do these things live. There we go. Now we got the right screen up and names are in the right place. All right. So it's only the third one. So only the third live episode. So I'm allowed to screw up still. So a lot has happened in this past week, as we know. The long-awaited 315 went live as of last Wednesday. We're going to talk a little bit about that, as well as, well, kind of like what we speculated immediately after that. The very next day, we got 315.1 in the PTU for all backers. No avocado or wave one or anything like that. It just went straight to everybody. And so for the most part, most people played 315 for one day. So I know there's a lot of people still playing 315 because of the wipe and wanting to earn AUEC. I know you guys have been doing that as well too. I've been messing more around with 315.1, and honestly, it doesn't even seem like another update. It just seems like a continuation of the 315, and it's because really the 315.1 they're only bringing in the IAE stuff, so it'll in volumetric clouds, but I think it's going to be one of those patches where we're not going to see really much significance with the X patch. That it's really just going to feel like a longer primary patch. So, other than that, we usually go over all the current offers, current events, things like that. So, not much has changed. We still actually have the referral bonus that's going on right now with the uh, IAE coming up, and that referral bonus is going to be the MPUV cargo. And the way you do that is if you're getting into the verse or you want us to get started with the verse, use that reference code. There's one on the bottom of the screen here. If you use that, you get 5,000 additional AUEC when you get into the game. Or on top of that, with that referral code right now through December 1st, you're going to get a $35 value of the MPUV cargo, which was the Ship Showdown Best in Show winner. You'll also get all the benefits of that with the Best in Show paint for it, backpack, jacket, and t-shirt. So take advantage of that and definitely enjoy that. You can upgrade it. It does have LTI, which is your long-term or lifetime insurance. Sorry about that. I haven't had enough beers yet today. But great $35 value for getting into the game, and something that you can definitely use in the long run. You can't melt it or anything, but great little ship to build off of. On top of that, we actually have some pre-IAE ship sales going on as well too. And let's see here. And of course, I've messed up my stuff here. So let me get the right frame going here. There we go. There's our little MPUV. Little fashion shot of it. We also have the 400i that is on sale right now. It's never come off sale since it was introduced at CitizenCon, so all those packages are still for sale. I'm not expecting we're going to see really any change to it when IAE comes in, but they're keeping this one up there. It seems like they've kind of finally gotten to the final adjustments on it until further down the line when they do a polish or a gold pass on it. I'm still iffy on this one, but definitely something you can grab out there. It's got all the paints that are still available for it as well too. And typically that's going to be 250 standalone without a war bond. And actually, I didn't even notice, are they even still offering the war bond? I thought they were. Have you guys
Yes,
noticed?
they are. Sorry, I was looking up the page. Yeah, they are, and
Okay.
it still has LTI as well, which that will probably change at IE.
Yeah, that'll probably change to the 10-year insurance at IAE. So definitely a good thing to grab there if you're into that luxury origin ship category. Uh, I'm going to hold on to mine for now just because I got that new pack that got what I was going to move it to already. So I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do with it. Of course, other bonuses that we got going on, they got a 15% discount using the coupon code PATCH315 for the Tobii Eye Tracker 5. I actually have this and I love it. And this thing is for head tracking, absolutely amazing. It can do eye tracking, head tracking. And now with 315, they introduced the gaze targeting, which I haven't really gotten into messing around with too much yet. But have you guys, because don't you have a Tobii J-Scale?
I do, and I use it mostly when I'm piloting. I've not tried the gaze targeting yet, though. And
Yeah.
I think it's great because you can actually just move your head and you can look all around.
Oh yeah, yeah. I always turn it off during streams and all that just so it doesn't bother anybody. Because sometimes if you got a lot of motion, some people don't like to watch. But it's a great piece of equipment. I actually like it better than my Track IR I had. I don't know. What are you using anything for head tracking, Mando?
Not at this time, no. I was going to ask you a question about that too.
Hmm.
Do you run multiple monitors?
I run 4 monitors. Yes.
Okay, so I mean, how does it behave like when you glance over at other monitors and stuff?
Oh, okay. Well, when I play the game, it's on because I stream. I have it on the center monitor. But when I used to span it, it worked with the 3 monitor span. But with the single monitor, if I look at other monitors, it will turn the head. The eye tracking, if I just look at it without turning my head, my character will look in that direction. So it still does affect it if you look at the outlying monitors.
Gotcha, makes sense.
You can also adjust those sensitivities, though.
Yeah, I've got I mean, I've got like a webcam hooked up that I use for kind of the mouse movement stuff, but I'm just
Yeah,
thinking about getting a Toby.
they're great for the head tracking, especially if you're playing and you're doing that dog fighting and you want to look out to the side, or if you just want to watch the gun go off on the Inferno. It works great. So 15% discount on that, and just use that code patch315 and you'll get that discount. And then also don't forget that they do still have the new shards for Game Glass. So definitely check that out. And you can find a link for that on the RSI site as well too, which is fully customizable use of a tablet or something for more of a interaction with the different features and functions of your ship. If you're using mouse and keyboard, it's definitely great. POTUS or Hostess users actually love using this as well too, especially with when they have more limited options as far as buttons and switches. So check that out. And then the caption this contest is going on right now, and this is for a Thrustmaster T16 Space Sim Duo. And you can actually find a Twitter post on this from back on November 11th. It closes on the 18th of November, though, at midnight Pacific Standard Time. And you got to reply directly to the social media post to enter it. And the T16,000 Thrustmaster system is a nice dual stick system. It's not as heavy on the buttons and the switches as your VKBs or your X56, but definitely a great dual stick system for somebody that's trying it out for the first time and just wants something a little more simplified. But you can definitely get into that contest as well too. So check that out. And then we also have our pre-IAE sales, which are going to be with the Crusader. And sorry, I'm messing up the video here. I'm going to play this for everybody. And this is the introduction of the A2.
At Crusader Industries, we believe that our values are more than a standard of behavior. They're our legacy and our inspiration. We don't defend them through sheer size or firepower alone. We ally ourselves with those who share our core beliefs. We make sure the real heroes make it to where they're needed most. At Crusader Industries, we know that lifting up others benefits us all.
I love that commercial for that. I think that
That's great.
Freaking amazing, especially when you get to see more Moabs. And of course, with the pre-IAE sales, you'll actually see that they already have the IAE insurance on these, which is that 10-year, 120 months. They have several different availability. The C2, you can get it for $400 US, the M2 for $520, or the A2 for $675 on a war bond, or $750 non-war bond standalone. So the price has come up on the A2. The other two haven't changed this time around, but it's gone up by $50 for the standalone ship on the A2. They do have some concierge packages also available with the Starlifter Trio for $1425 US on war bond or $1575 non-war bond. They also have several different available paints that are going to be able to be obtained for those. And also, you're going to see a lot of paints coming in with IEE for different ships as well. So keep that in mind. But lots of packages there for the Hercules. With IAE approaching, we're going to see more offers as far as war bonds. And of course, all the ship sales are going to open up for all the different ships. And they'll start on the day that the manufacturer gets put in. We're going to be starting on the 19th with Anvil. And then on the 20th, we're going to see RSI come in. Now, a couple of things came out in the Star Citizen Live, and we're going to mention it again a little bit later, but some particular comments by Jared basically stated that you really got to keep an eye out on Argo and Mist Day, which we already know that we talked about the possibility of an Argo straight to flyable, which may be the MPUV raft. We also talked about the possibility of a Mist small size refining ship. So it'll be interesting if that's going to be a straight to flyable or is it going to be a concept? We don't know yet. But specifically, those 2 days were mentioned by Jared to keep an eye on, and probably something you're going to want to make sure you get in there and check out when they get launched. So, of course, they're right in the middle, too. Lore post this week. As we all know, I'm not the lore guru, but they talked about CC Conversions, which is an armor customizer. And they do a lot of the interesting armors. And actually, J-Skull, you know a little bit more about that than I do.
I just read it. So CC conversions. The article was really talking about the background of CC conversions, who they are, who's behind it, and so the story just kind of runs through describing kind of where it comes from and what they do. So CC conversion, it actually stands for computer crafting, which is an application or a computer modeling tool that was built by one of the 7 people behind CC customizations or conversions. There are a bunch of art students, and the computer crafting is a modeling tool that allows them to more quickly visualize their products. But they salvage armor, and then they customize it and make it look cool. The Cadillo, and the Neoni helmets are 2 examples of armors that we have right now that are CC.
Yeah, and I like those Cadillo helmets. You know, Spectre always wears them too. It's got that mohawk that lights up. So
I just call them the Spartan helmet.
is that what you call them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that does make sense, you know, with that fin down the back. So it'll be interesting to see what else they come up with as far as one-offs from them as well too. So, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say one thing about the IAE. They're and this might be skipping ahead a little bit, but 13, with 315.1 and the PTU right now, they were doing the play test of the halls and changing out the ships on display. The
Yep.
only manufacturer that is not on the 2 days of rotation is Misk. So
Then I wonder why. But well, I mean, we talked about it last week too, because when we looked at the commercial for IAE, that one thing that was a Starfare really did not look right to me. And I'm wondering if they snuck something in that people just overlooked, and that's actually a small refining ship. It'll be interesting to see because I really think that thing was missing the large tanks on the side of it. It just didn't look right. So I wonder if that might be a clue as to what we're going to see.
don't know.
So I guess we'll all find out in less than a week. That's for sure. It's like Christmas. The anticipation kills you because you know you're going to get some new stuff coming in, and it's just like you just want to see it. So, of course, we also had the Squadron 42 monthly report that came out. It's actually very, very lengthy. I'm not going to go into detail with it. A lot of it actually just copied what we saw with the PU monthly report. And, as we all know, that the development is now going towards a system of develop for Squadron 42 and then take that and apply it towards the PU, which actually I don't mind that system. It actually makes fairly decent sense, and I think it's so far working well for them. But definitely, you can see that on the RSI site, and check that out. Give it a lengthy read, and give yourself some time. It's going to take a good 20-30 minutes of reading. It's several pages long. So
Well, and I normally skip the Squadron 42 ones because they're so close to the PU monthly reports.
yeah,
But since they are starting to put more effort into developing things, dropping them there first before they go to the PU, I actually am going to start reading those just to see if there's any clues as to what we're going to get in the PU.
yeah. Yeah, because actually, now that the roadmap roundups actually moved to a bi-weekly thing, you're probably going to pick up little bits of information more from other areas than that. But yeah, no roadmap roundup this week because it's a bi-weekly and they just released one last week. And we got IAE obviously coming up, so it kind of helps them out, gives them a chance to do that. I was actually surprised we even got a Star Citizen live or a Inside Star Citizen. I was figuring as we got closer they were going to skip one or the other like what they did with Citizen Con, but they actually had both of them out this week. All right, so for current events, like we mentioned at the beginning, patch 315 finally went live after a lot of anticipation, came out on Wednesday evening. They got it out kind of a little bit later in the day, or at least for my time zone. We're here in the Eastern time zone. And then we got in, and actually, it was really, really smooth. I don't think we had any issues that night when it went live.
They've been really stable. I mean, the 315 build that's in PU right now is I haven't gotten 130K, and I was on for probably close to 8 hours today.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't, 315 and 315.1. I haven't seen a single 30K yet. We know that they did the hot fix and applied that to both of them to help reduce that because 315 and PTU at one point was really, really horrid with the 30Ks. And
Oh, there were a couple patches that got really messy in the
oh yeah,
PTU.
and they've really turned it around. I mean, we still have obviously some of the other issues that are going on with it, which we'll get into, but this also brought the database wipe and the reset of all your in-game purchase things. So all your in-game ships, your wallet, as well as your reputation, all of that got wiped out and reset to zero. I actually got in and I had 140,000 AUEC. I know some people had 120. I've ran into people that had as little as 20,000. So it's hard to say that. I don't know if this includes if they went through with their including an extra amount for those that did Xenothreat in the last patch, or if that's still to come because I'm with the packs I own and all that, I can't even keep track of what I'm supposed to be starting with. So, but I honestly, the wipe doesn't bother me. It took me a little bit to get used to the fact that I couldn't just go buy everything. I think when we first got on that first night, I think I dwindled myself down to 26,000 already just buying some components and some guns. So I'm already broke.
In a blink.
Yeah, I mean, in 10 minutes of launching in, I'm broke. And all I did was
Yeah.
outfit my Harbinger. So
Well, normally you're buying like 5,000 med pens out of the gate too.
Yep.
I've gotten out of the habit. I don't buy any more than 6 now. So I will still buy 10 FS9s. So that way I can throw them on some ships or keep them at other stations and all that. And plus I lose a lot.
I was gonna say you kind of have to, because now when you die, if you don't get back or somebody doesn't pick up your stuff's gone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And you're going to have to start hiding it all over the place in ships and all that stuff. So, but other than that, 315 has been extremely good since it's come in. We got the new features in it with the medical gameplay. It's got the personal physical inventory, hospitals and clinics with the doctors and nurses. Of course, they got the 400i in there, which again I think is it's finally at its final iteration for now. I don't think we're going to see many changes made to the 400i until they do another polish pass on it, because obviously right now their focus is the Starfighter and the Redeemer as well. We've already seen a couple of changes made on those. So I think the 400i is at the point it's going to stay for a while. We also got the Crusader Hercules A2 with those beautiful, beautiful Moabs. And I've actually gotten pretty proficient with dropping those things. And of course, our infiltrate and defend missions and the looting and loot generation. So that's actually been very positive. I have a tendency I forget to loot bodies, but I do look for the boxes.
you will now.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
the one thing I forgot to add in here is we also got 2 new reputation chains, right? The mercenary, which is the infiltrate and defend missions, and
Hmm.
then the local delivery one, which is the unlocks the delivery boxes for you.
Right. And then, I mean, this is a lot to take in on one patch. As I talked about in some of my videos previously, I mean, any one of these between the medical and the inventory could be a patch by itself. And for what it is and how much they're shoving in, I will say it's been much better than what I was anticipating, because I was just waiting to get in and be like the early PTU patches, which is horrendous gameplay and constantly getting kicked out, 30Ks, crashing desktops and all that. But it was nice to see them take that extra time to get the best working version in that they could for now. And it paid off, I think. So,
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just spending that extra time in the PTU, I know a lot of folks are chomping at the bit for it to come to PU, but it was really worth it to leave it in PTU a little bit longer just to kind of iron out some of the issues.
yeah, and you know, with IAE, I think the benefit that they had with IE, like I've mentioned several times on previous programs, is they're reusing new Babbage. So that takes some of the pressure off of them to test and make sure that's working, because they already know it works. It's had 2 events. It eases that time span that they have to get that up and running. They really just have to worry about floor displays, rental functionality, and the timing and how everything works. And I think it really paid off for them, because I think they're going to have a pretty smooth event if everything stays running the way that it's running right now.
Well, and they're also doing other things too, right? They've been doing lighting passes, they've been doing audio passes. They've all, just in general on the whole game, and so there's more. I'll say there's more going on in IE than just some of the stuff that we've seen in the past.
Oh
They've
yeah,
they I think they're going to try to up things. Plus, they've got some underlying technology that they're working on for server meshing and whatnot, so that they keep sneaking in.
yeah. And actually,
And
let me.
there's
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to mention that they implemented the cloud tech around New Babbage too, which will
Oh
help with
yeah.
IE.
Yep.
And I was actually out there this afternoon before having dinner, and it just looks amazing. There's a little bit of just kind of, I don't even, it almost looks like it's just heat, like vapor effect that you're getting on some of the clouds right at the top of the shot.
Yep.
So, I mean, I tried turning my graphics, my volumetric clouds down to medium to see if that cleared it up any. But we see that a lot on Orison too right now. So obviously this
Yeah.
is only the first level of this, and we're going to see it continue to get better as time goes on.
Yep.
So, and of course with 315, they also launched the trailer for it, which is this here. Which this was a killer fucking trailer.
Oh yeah,
Language.
we're live.
You suffered a catastrophic injury, but you're okay now. Now don't rush anything. You're free to go when you feel comfortable.
You got to kind of feel for that guy just looking up at the Moab as it's falling on him. So I will say that the new features for me have been awesome. The infiltrate and defend missions still need quite a bit of work. We had some issues there with the spawn closets for them. We had some issues with identifying security versus the pirates, and also pirates at one point basically firing on you when you went there to go help them. And they got a lot of that sorted out with the PTU, but still finding a lot of times, like I was in one this afternoon, and all the bad guys are just hanging out in the spawn closets and they're not coming out. And you kill the 3 that are standing in there, try to move on to go find more, and then more pop in behind you and kill you. Or like what we were talking about before, something knocks me down on my backside and I'm just stuck in the floor. I can't move. I can't get up. I can't do anything but go into third person. So there's still some work that's going there, but I think for the first iteration of this, that they did a really, really good job with this. And the bombing is beautiful too.
Oh yeah, definitely. The A2 is probably right now my top 3 favorite ships in the game right now.
Oh yeah, I mean, and you know, we'll talk about the Inside Star Citizen a little bit later, but they mentioned that they want to get away from one ship that can just dominate everything. And right now, the A2 really can dominate quite a bit between the bombing and the other items such as bounties. That thing, even just piloting is solo, you can wreck with that ship.
Yeah.
And when you got it fully loaded, it's even more so.
Well, that's the thing I like about it is like, yeah, it's a really powerful ship, but like you don't really see its power until you get like everybody on board, you know, and like our org like teamed up and fully crewed one and took on an Idris and stuff, and it's just like, wow, it was just so much fun.
Oh yeah, I mean we I think you were on the night that we had like 3 of them take on the Idris, and it just melted it.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
no
it's just
time
like,
at all.
but you look at like the number of players versus the opponent, and so like, yeah, if they're all on like one ship, it kind of makes sense that you should be able to overpower that opponent. If it was just somebody soloing it, they wouldn't have nearly as much firepower.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean I tried to solo it and waiting for others to get out there, and just the A2, and a single A2 by itself couldn't get the shields down. So it is something you're going to need other people on board to man the other guns, or other people in other ships coming out to assist you with it as well.
Yeah, so it's self-balancing in that sense.
Yeah. So, and of course, the very next day after 315 came out, they came out with 315.1 in the PTU. As we mentioned, this is bringing IAE in with the Tobin Expo Center, as well as they're testing this weekend with the hull changes for the different manufacturers. And of course, that brought in our Redeemer as well as the Ares Starfighter, which these ships I am just in love with. I mean, the Redeemer, I've waited 2 years for this since I got in. First concept ship I got, and I am happy with it. I know there's two sides to this. Some people like it the way it is, other people don't. There's some issues with people that feel it shouldn't have the 2 size 3 shields. Of course, when it first came in, we had the issue with the quantum fuel, which they've already corrected. It came in to 315.1 with 1,670 liters of quantum fuel. And in the patch that came out last night, they bumped that up to 5,700. So now it's got more than enough quantum fuel. I'm able to make jumps from one end of the Stanton system to the other multiple times before I even got to worry about it. And of course, with the Ares Starfighter, they're playing around with that as well too, with the acceleration speed, as well as doing some other adjustments to it. There's talk that over the weekend they may mess around with the Inferno's ammo count just to see what is a good balance for it. So keep an eye out for those changes as they occur. I was flying both the Ares today, and I thought they still flew amazingly, and the Ares is still fast off the line. So I don't think that the changes they made hurt it in any way whatsoever. Would you guys?
Yeah, there was something.
Hmm?
Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say, what do you guys think about them?
I mean, you loaned me your Stark to fly, and yeah, I really like those ships a lot. I like the Ion because you don't run out of ammo, but I know it doesn't quite hit as hard.
Yeah, well, actually, even with the Inferno, right now it's still running with 2,000 rounds, and I found that I took on 4 or 5 bounties in a row, and I had no problem. I was still working on my initial load of ammo, so it
Oh, okay.
seems to last a good amount of time.
Yeah, the one thing it took a little bit getting used to for me was the amount of time it takes to spin up the gun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does
So
take
there's
a second, but it is a Gatling gun, which is pretty normal for that.
right.
So
So it seems like it'd be really good against bigger targets.
yeah, and I know J-Scale, you're a fan of the Redeemer for sure.
Yeah, we're messing around with it. Well, I mean, I have all three as well. I have not flown the Inferno yet. I flew the Ion when we were all of us first got into the PTU when they first dropped it. Um, one thing we've been seeing, we've said this before, with the ships that they're bringing out, there's a level of polish to them that is just getting better and better. So the ships look and feel a lot better when when they first hit our hangars. Just the sound effects and everything. I think it's so much cooler just hearing all that stuff and flying it. It actually feels like a spaceship.
Oh yeah.
Um, but the handling and everything, I, I think it handles as well as I was expecting. It might be a little bit sloppier than I was expecting. I was expecting a little bit more being a Crusader ship, but it is a fairly nimble ship for a flying giant gun. I'm talking about the Ion,
Yeah.
and then flying the Redeemer. I was surprised that it handles as well as it does because it seems to handle a little bit better than a freelancer. Definitely handles better than a Connie for me.
Yeah, I think it does, but I will say this about all three is that they're definitely they're set up as far as their ability to fight. Now, the Starfighter series was brought in to be a big ship fighter. It's supposed to take on the larger ships that it can basically do a lot of damage on. The Inferno with the ballistics, the Ion with the energy weapons. The Redeemer itself with its multi-crew is really intended to take on larger targets. So dogfighting is not ideal for them. And you can definitely see that in flying it. And I took all three of them out on several bounties from, their first level certifications all the way up to, I'm working on MRTs right now. And the turning speed and all that, you can definitely tell you're not going to keep up with the M50s or even the Mustang Deltas that are popping in. But you don't have to worry about it too much because they're not really doing much damage to you. So you just get a few shots off on them and they're going to blow up. If they even get within a certain range, usually you can take them out before they even get in range to shoot at you. And you can definitely tell the handling is kind of, I think, right where it should be because it shouldn't be able to keep up with an M50 and it shouldn't be able to keep up with a faster, smaller ship. It even has trouble, keeping up with the Gladius because of that slow return rate. But if you're taking on an Idris, you're going to be much more maneuverable than that Idris. So I
And
think it's going to work well.
and that's the maneuverability that I'm looking for. To be able to kind of avoid getting hit by the guns on the Idris or something like that. That's the maneuver. The the nimbleness that it needs is that it definitely is not a fighter to go up against another fighter in a dogfight. You're not going to win unless the pilot in the other ship is really really bad.
Yeah, I think NPCs you'll be fine, but if you take on another player in one of those, they'll definitely have the advantage on you with maneuverability and all that.
Yeah,
So,
I, I did notice. I went out in the Redeemer last night. There were three of us. Two people in the manned turrets, and then me piloting, and I was trying to fly it kind of the same way with a hammerhead, right? Trying to give your gunners optimal stability and kind of visibility to the targets. And we tried a claim jumper mission, and one of the things that we found is that even though the pip is green on those ballistic turrets, you got to wait for them to get in close if you really want to be effective. At range, the scatter on the bullets is a bit much, and so we were getting hit by prospectors just ramming us.
oh yeah,
So it
yeah,
definitely wasn't. It's definitely not designed to stay out there and stay in the fight. It's more of a get out there, hit hard, and do your thing, and then kind of pull back.
yeah,
It,
definitely. And you know, I don't see really too many issues I can call out on any of these ships though. So they're gorgeous. I love these things. I mean, I would probably make the Starfighter one of my go-tos when we end up getting the Idris and get on the bigger ships and then Xenothreat comes in, going
oh yeah,
after the,
Oh yeah.
the multiple capital ships there, that's gonna be king. So I think that's gonna just wreck it.
it'll in the beginning it'll at least replace the Eclipse and the Tallies.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I took a hammerhead on and it was like just a matter of a couple minutes and the Ion's gun just took it out. Just no length of any fight whatsoever. So it'll be interesting to see what people end up doing with these things and how good they get with them. So, but with patch 3.15.1, like I said, it feels more of a continuation of 3.15 and not so much a true point 1 release. But we also saw the same issues that we had with 3.15. Obviously, a lot of them carried over into this patch as they continue to work on them. Some of the things that we've noticed, obviously, we talked about the bounties not kicking off as they should, targets not showing up when they should, it's not clearing after you take out the target. We've found a workaround. And Mando, why don't you tell them about the workaround that we discovered?
Well, the one that I have is really you have to wait for the actual the primary target to get the neutralized tag on it. Because until that actually moves, even if it engages you, you won't get credit if you kill them.
Yeah. So
And
wait for
so
that, and it helps.
yeah, yeah. So like I was doing a whole bunch of bounties yesterday, and it was really just kind of dodging and just waiting for that tag to change. And even though the guy was engaging me, and even though like it's the secondary targets were engaging me, if I took it out before that neutralized target appeared on it, I would not get credit for the mission. It would kind of like hang in a stuck state.
Yeah.
But every mission that I did where I waited for that tag to come over, and sometimes it took like up to a minute, Every time I waited for it, it cleared right when I killed the neutralized target. So that's what I've discovered anyway.
Yeah, and even you were mentioning that seen it take up to several minutes for it to actually pop over to the neutralize as well too.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's the thing that kind of throws me off. So I think it's definitely like server related. So
yeah,
maybe they'll fix that over time.
hopefully, hopefully, I know that there's definitely some. I think because didn't you put an issue council report in on it in 315?
Oh yeah.
So because this is something that has carried over from 315.
Yeah.
H3 is mentioning the quantum out and back in will fix it as well. He's saying. So if you leave the area by quantum, quantum back in, he says that's fixing it for him as well too. So it's
Yeah. Okay.
worth a try. Some other things that we have seen is obviously Klesher. It's not on any of the patch notes or anything, and I know there's several issue council reports on it, but Klesher is still an issue. Two things going, well, more than two things, but Klesher minables, you can't really mine, and you're still getting the error when you're trying to redeem your mineable rocks to get time off. The other thing we're seeing with Klesher is it's hit or miss. If you end up in there, you want to do O2 missions because O2 missions are definitely the fastest and easiest way to get out of there. You can take a 13-hour sentence and be done in 45 minutes if you get enough of them. But they're either going to be there or they're not. So if they don't pop into your Moby Glass within the first minute of being in Klesher, they're not going to show up. Your best bet's to get off, go to another server. An Australian server seems to be very consistent with the O2 missions, and get them that way. But that has been a problem for actually quite a few patches now, all the way back to 312 and 313. The other issue is we're seeing escapes. If you get the fan code from the office, if it starts with a 0, the fan will not stop. The keypad is not recognizing the 0 as being the first number in the 4-digit code. So if you go to the mining office and 0123, you're going to be stuck there. Your best bet is to get off the server, come back in, try again because that keypad's busted there. So there's if you're just unfortunate to get in and all three things are happening at once, jump servers and try again, and you might be able to get out of there. Uh, Aside from that, we were talking about desync, obviously, earlier, and that seems to be a little more noticeable. I've definitely noticed it some more. We're seeing a lot more party members that as we're cruising around the verse, uh, there's just one person or two people that are just invisible. They could be standing right next to you and they see you, everybody else sees them, but you can't see them. Which I think, as we were discussing, is probably more of a server issue, of course. But I would imagine we're going to see probably a flurry of patch updates between now and the time IAE launches for them to be able to address as many of these issues as possible while also preparing all the halls and the show for launch on the 19th. And definitely make sure you throw those issue council reports in. And if you're in the org or you're on our Discord, we have a channel for issue council. Throw the information in there so that we can go in and verify it and get it noticed. Because as they mentioned in a previous, I think it was a Star Citizen Live, that the issue council reports, the ones that get the most verification are what gets attention. So if a report goes in, it doesn't get verified, doesn't get contributed to, it's just going to get ignored. So you want to make sure that you're visiting that, contributing all your experiences and verifying information that other people put in so that it can be seen and get addressed and handled. So other than that, the other issues that they have, ground vehicle is still an issue if you're saying your spawn point for Orison or Area 18. That's been going on since the initial 315 launch. The rock and hand minables are still having issues with extraction. Sorry, Potato Chef, if you're watching, but yes, your hand mining and rock mining is still somewhat broken intermittently. I know we had a couple people that were able to use the rock and get some money off of that, but it's still an occasional issue. Repair, refuel, and restock on the moon outposts still not working, but it seems like they've got the issues resolved with Everest, Bigini, Port Olisar, Tressler, and those other stations and cities are all good to go. You'll be able to do that there. But your moon bases, just don't even try because they're just not working right now. The character customizer is an issue where once you set up your character, go through all that process of customizing it, launching the game, and it's nothing like what you picked. And that's because the options you're choosing are not updating your character in game. And that's been going on for the last few PTU patches. And then, of course, they're having an issue still with the mineable gems, having a stacking issue in your inventory, and the prospector door and ladder animations are missing at this time. That's been on the last couple of patch reports. I have not ran into where it's killing a lot of people anymore, so they may have resolved the killing issue, but it's definitely the animations themselves are not working, which might be why it's not killing you. So, but I would expect that I won't be surprised if we see another patch on Monday and probably most days after that until we get to IAE. So, and as far as the feature updates, we already mentioned the volumetric clouds out on Microtech, and they look absolutely gorgeous. If you watch CitizenCon, that's that wall, that example they showed, that was the wall of clouds. And they do look, I got out there during a sunset, and it just looked amazing. They did a medical UI polish pass and conducted a pass on the, I'm sorry, they conducted a performance polish on dropped items. They've got Tobin Space Center in there, obviously, now. And as we mentioned, they're testing the different exhibits on basis of, I think it was 2 o'clock Central Standard Time. And it's 5 changes. So they'll go until 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. And they'll change it every hour on the hour. And they've already completed all the ones for today. And they'll pick up again tomorrow. And then, of course, CIG is recommending doing character resets for anyone that would like to recover sub, pledge, and concierge gear, because right now they don't have that in-game resource to get those back. And as we all know previously, they always said reserve a character reset for absolute needed basis only, but now they're encouraging people to use it if they want to get that gear back and not wait for the next patch. So just remember, if you do it, you got a 12-hour time period before you can do it a second time. So, and with it only being less than a week to IAE, I mean, you could always just, wait the week. So eventually we'll get an in-game solution. All right, so going into the new ships themselves, as we talked about, we do have the Redeemer, which is a multi-crew, heavily armed, heavily shielded ship. It's a dedicated gunship with a pilot and up to 4 crew. Also has seating for some transport capabilities for other passengers. And like I said, there's some mixed reviews out there on Spectrum. It's too buff. It's not got any problems. Leave it as is. I expect that until this goes live, we're going to see them making adjustments on all of these ships like we talked about. And then, of course, with the latest patch, the quantum fuel capacity did get up to offset that fuel issue, and that's running much better now. And, of course, we also talked about the Ares starfighters, the Ion and Inferno. Talked about they're going to be messing around with the ammo capacity on the Inferno and the acceleration speed. Has already been actually dropped down a little bit, and it's still fast as can be. And the fighters themselves, it was the other night on the stream. I mean, that thing took a shot straight from a tonk. So they're tough ships. They can definitely take a punch. And there was talk of bumping their strength, their HP down by about, I think 15% was what was mentioned or something along those lines, or just lowering it a little bit. But I think they'll still be able to take a pretty good hit. And we discussed everything as far as the maneuverability as well too. But they did increase the rate of fire on the Ion with the last patch that came out last night. And actually, I think it didn't really have a problem to begin with, but I do like the accelerated rate of fire on that. So that's actually some nice changes that we saw. So Anything else you guys got as far as 315, 315.1? Anything else you guys are noting or seeing out there that would be interesting?
315.1, they also are dropping in. I haven't validated this yet, but supposedly they dropped in the new Hurston security guard armor in the CBD area.
Oh, really? That
Yeah.
one with the hoses?
Yeah. It was. I don't know if it was on a patch note. I saw it somewhere, but I haven't actually gone and looked.
I guess we're
Um,
gonna have to go kill some security guards.
yeah. And one thing, I think it might have been you, Mandalorian. In 315, there's some of the guard or some of the NPCs aren't spawning with bodies.
Mm-hmm.
They've got like heads and boots, but they're dropping tools. And so I was able to collect up this morning just on a refinery deck like four Grey Cat multi tools without having to buy them. So I was saving some money there.
That
Which
always helps, especially if you
Yeah.
lose your armor.
it was nice, right?
Yeah,
Save
it's
some
all
money.
in the refinery areas right now.
Yep.
I have about 30 multi-tools now.
Yeah, we were talking about it's doubling as two things, right? We're saving money, but we're also doing kind of garbage collection. So
Yep.
That's right. We're reducing entities that the server has to clean up.
Which is never a bad thing.
doing our part.
All right. Well, that brings us to Inside Star Citizen. And Jaysco, I will let you take this one.
Of course. Okay, so one of the things I like about some of the way they do some of the Inside Star Citizens and the Star Citizen Lives when they get the teams together is you tend to get more information than what you'll get out of like a scripted post because the guys are talking about a number of different things. The challenge is that it can sometimes be difficult for us to gather it all up and summarize it in a concise way. So we tried here, and we may miss a few things here and there, but so this episode was about the future of space combat and basically talking to all of the folks from the space combat team, which is made up of multiple different teams, members from different teams, starting with Yogi up there, who's very active in the Spectrum forums. He's always, I see him responding a lot to ship feedback and combat things like that. But it's feature teams, it's vehicle teams. There's a whole mix of folks. Um, so uh, I'm looking over the notes here. They they've done a few things to try and I'll just say overall to try and balance things out because they're trying to get to a place where they're they know they can't eliminate meta, but they're looking to try to get to a place where they can kind of smooth it out so that they can eliminate as much meta as possible. And by part of the way that they're doing that is trying to define archetypes for various ships. So if it's a like a Gladius or an Arrow, it's basically ship to ship dogfighter type thing. Larger ships are going to go after capital ships. They want to get to a place where the Hammerhead can actually go toe to toe with a Gladius, and you can't take it out. Um, things like that where they're trying to make it more realistic but keep the fun going. So they went into some of the very like heavy details around kind of how they approach all this stuff, and they use a concept called OODA, the OODA loop, which I forgot what the OODA is, but it's kind of observe. uh, I forget what the other one was. Decide and act. I forgot the other O.
Yeah, I can't
Anyway,
remember the other O either.
but it's a system that was made up by John Boyd, who was a United States Air Force pilot and military strategist. He was a member of the fighter mafia and developed the lightweight fighter program, which developed the F-16 and the FA-18, which are both still in service. They Oh, you have it right here. OODA loop is a study of the space combat. This space combat team is utilizing to design the feel of the combat. So basically, they're putting new features in, and then they're looking at what we're doing with it, and they're trying to incorporate as much of that back into the changes that they make. So they've even talked about taking some of what they see players do and incorporating some of the tactics that players do, and building that into some of the AI. And trying to eliminate some of the bad behaviors that they see, but put some of the good stuff that they see in there as well. Um, trying to roll through some of this stuff.
Yeah, I think
Sorry.
one thing on the meta thing is that they explained it well with the fact that meta is one ship that can just or one ship or a set of components that just rules them all.
Yeah, yeah.
And even an unskilled pilot can throw these things onto a ship and fly that ship and do it. And it's not so much skill; it's based on the components in the ship that you're using. And by dialing back the meta, it's going to be about your skills and using the right components for the job that you're doing. So there's not going to be one component, one power plant, one shield generator that is going to be the one option that will fit every scenario.
Yes. But they're also trying to take it into not just shields and weapons, but they're trying to they're breaking the weapons and the shields and all the different components down into even deeper um, archetypes,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, and I
Uh,
think that's great that they're doing that.
they're bringing back G-force effects. So I think somebody noticed that the Ares can accelerate up to top speed in just the blink of an eye, but it's pulling a 30G acceleration, which would kind of liquefy your bowels. So things like that, they're going to start adding things like that are more realistic to what a true fighter combat or fighter pilot would experience as they're fighting. And so there's a lot you have to manage. There's managing the G forces, there's managing power, there's managing your targets, there's managing your uh, ammunition, payloads, all that stuff. So with digging into the deeper archetypes, they are looking at currently there's only two types for weapons, which are good against fighters and good against large ships. They want to expand it into individual archetypes, anti-infantry, anti-missile, similar to a Sea Whiz or interceptor missiles, and suppression type weapons. And I think we've seen some of that stuff in one of the reports where they're talking about different. It was a roadmap roundup where they were looking at different ballistic rounds.
Yeah.
There were EM ballistic rounds, and then there were also another type of ballistic rounds that kind of worked to like the energy weapons that kind of disable systems. I forgot the name of them off the top of my head. Anyway, they want to get rid of the jack of all trades and kind of make um, if there is a jack of all trades, it will be good at nothing, but it'll work in a pinch.
Yep.
Um,
It's not going to be your best option.
yeah. Shield variants 314 shields are brought down, but with yeah, they basically made it inconsequential what shield you put on your ship during 314, but they're going to start bringing some of that stuff back in 315. They reintroduced some of the changes. I think I haven't seen them myself, but um, they're only slight right now, I guess, and trying to moderate like small shields and large shields and grade A, grade B, grade C, the different military, all of that stuff. It's not fully. I didn't get that it was fully back in. Did you?
No, it's not fully back in. A lot of these things are going to be long road, small changes and small steps as they progress.
Okay. I was gonna say I didn't remember it. Power triangle changes. They're still working on the power triangles. Some of it is adjustments to the power triangle will begin to affect the turrets because right now I don't believe they do.
No, they
Um,
don't. Actually, every turret has its own, so they're going to be able to bring it to where the pilot can actually affect the mount to the turrets themselves.
well, and that's one of the things I was thinking about with the Redeemer. If you switch those ballistics out to energy weapons, does it have enough power on board to fire all that stuff so that it could stay in a fight longer as opposed
I
to
actually swapped mine to some CF447s, and it did perfectly fine with the stock power plant.
and people were just going ham on them or
Oh yeah, I mean, I just swapped the ballistics out with the C447s, and I was running some bounties, and I had no issues.
hmm, cool.
So
Let's see. Flight tuning. They're going to continue working on flight tuning, advancing more beyond what we had in 314. And I think they only worked on the small ships, right? They didn't work on the medium and large ships in
no,
314. They ran out of time.
yeah,
Um, So this is going to be something that they do incrementally over time. Again, it's the OODA loop, right? They make the change, they observe kind of what the change effects are, figure out what they like, what they don't like, get the feedback from us, make the changes. I think that's the big thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And then they emphasize again they're aiming for enjoyment over realism, and that's Chris Roberts' big thing. Make it realistic as possible, but then dial it back to be fun.
But make it
Uh,
still believable.
yeah, and then IFCS trimming to introduce a small side project for the dual stick users. They want to allow a set to sticky throttle without using cruise control. So basically, the way they described it was you kind of like start thrusting in a certain way. Like if you're using decoupled mode in gravity, you could get your thrust kind of balanced out so you weren't sinking, and then you just tap a button and it would hold that thrust there, and then any thrust you apply on top of it would increase or decrease, kind of like speed matching in some games where you can kind of match the speed of your target.
Yeah.
Any delta in your speed is going to be relative to the speed of the target that you're moving on.
Yeah, and they also said that it's also going to allow them to give mouse and keyboard users an extra level of control instead of just hitting W and going full force forward. It's
Yep.
going to be able to have them be able to have smaller, increments as far as how fast they're accelerating and
Maybe fewer smashes straight into a station when they're taking off.
everything. Yeah, the thing I found interesting with this is the lengths that they're going with getting other subject matter experts with this, and that they spent several long hours in flight simulators and dogfighting training in
Yeah.
modern style simulating in modern ships or modern aircraft to kind of get a feel of what they want to bring to the Star Citizen universe from the feel of modern airships. So
Yeah.
it's they're going in depth with this a great deal and trying to get as much information as possible.
Yeah, they talked about engaging some former RAF pilots to talk to them about, dogfighting tactics and whatnot. So
Yeah, I mean
yeah,
they want this to get in depth to the point where you're going to have options when you're in dogfighting, and you're going to have to make decisions, and you're
yeah,
going to have to make thought out decisions as to what the best course of action is going to be based on your situation, and being able to get all the information that they want to give you to be able to make those decisions.
yeah.
So it's just going to get more in depth as time goes on.
Excuse me. They're also working on auto gimbals. They kind of jacked gimbals up in 314, and they're trying to work on give the ability to turn off auto assist and adding staggered fire groups for pilots that will affect every weapon group.
Hmm.
So it's exciting, I guess, if you're a gimbal user. I think most of the ships I have gimbals on, I don't actually use the gimbals. I just point the nose,
That's what I do. Yeah.
which is kind of a waste, right? Because if I got rid of the gimbals, I could get bigger guns. Turrets, working with weapon team to buff certain properties of turrets. And then I talked about the hammerhead as the example.
Yep.
Um, it's not as good at distance, or it's better at distance than it is at close range because once
Well,
you get somebody in there.
yeah. Right now, it's better at close range than it is at distance, and they want to beef up the guns on the turrets so that it's more consistent with the way it should be.
Yeah.
Because right now, by the time that you get any decent distance away from the hammerhead, the rounds just don't have the effect that they should have. So they're
which,
looking to balance that out.
which is what we were seeing in the Redeemer last night.
Yeah.
Long-term plans, high-speed flight mode, which is generally not effective right now, so they want to fix that. I'm not sure how they're going to fix it, but they want to. Ballistic ammo and managing the ammo. I don't remember what that one was.
Just the number of rounds and managing how many you have, how fast you're expending it, and all that.
No, basically just keep tweaking the ammo amounts.
Yeah.
EMP operator mode, provide more data to the operator. They want to actually have the EMP be somewhat of a useful tool, as opposed to right now it kind of is a not so useful tool
Yeah, I
from
mean,
what
it's
I've
just a
seen.
secondary fire option right now.
Yeah, but you have to be. I don't know. I feel like you have to really plan out your moves right now to make it work, as opposed to if you wanted to defend yourself and
Oh yeah.
fire
It's really
off.
hard. It's really hard to use in a group too without affecting getting a crime stat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I mean, you pop that off, and anybody that's in your party that's nearby you is going to be affected by it too.
And I took this to be large ships, capital ships. They want to implement kind of like a flak system or some sort of screening system to make it difficult to get in close.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, kind of like the whole World War II thing where they would just fill the sky with flying hot lead.
Yeah.
Um, Flight maneuver, cease AI from using less. Oh, yeah, this is what I was talking about earlier. They want to basically program the AI to use less abusive behaviors and implement some of the player stuff to make them more authentic feeling
No
and
more
smarter.
ramming.
Yeah, no more prospectors like slamming into the side of your ship. Um, capacitor gameplay to increase adding more effects and different modifications to the use of capacitors. So they want to expand it out from where it is right now with the 3, right? They want to go beyond the 3 little triangle.
Yeah.
And I think I've rambled on enough.
Yeah, and actually, perfect timing too, because that just took the same length as the actual video for Star Citizen
See, I
Live.
planned it that way. I planned to
Yeah,
ramble.
he was
the whole
watching the
time.
video and syncing.
There you go.
You just have impeccable timing there, J Scale.
Perfect.
All right, and that brings us to Star Citizen Live. This week it was very informal. It was just kind of a meet and get to know. If I say this wrong, Gavin Rothery, who I think somebody in our Discord pointed out, he kind of looked like Simon Pegg, and I could definitely see the similarities there, and definitely had some very cool things in his background on his shelf with the Star Wars helmets and everything else. Uh, this guy is, I think, he's designed more ships in Star Citizen than anybody else, and he was involved. The first thing he designed was the Cyclone, and then he also has worked on the Gladius and several other ships as well too. Um, so this guy's worked in feature films. Two of them that they mentioned specifically was Moon and Archive, which I haven't seen either one, so I may have to check those out. But Jared and him kind of had fun going back and forth. They showed off some of their collectibles. Jared actually pointed out that his background is real, and that all the stuff in the background there are his personal collection, which he's got some really cool stuff too. Although the picture somebody threw up in Discord earlier, I want those Pico slippers because I could use a set of those.
That was me. That was Jared actually posted that picture on Twitter.
I don't remember them selling those on the website.
No, his Twitter account has a bunch of people saying, "Where are these? Stop teasing us."
Oh, right now all I have is a pair of Ruby, the anime Ruby, these Y slippers. But yeah, I want those slippers, and one of the Pico balls he's got in the background would be cool too. But we definitely learned what brought Gavin into Star Citizen, how he got involved in it, and some of his favorite items that he's got to work on and everything. It's really an interesting thing to see when they bring these people in just as kind of a meet and greet and kind of get to know a little bit more about them. It's not giving you really any information about the future state of the game or what's going on, but this was where Jared had pointed out that a couple of the ships that Gavin had worked on, they couldn't talk about, but for everybody to make sure they're paying close attention on Argo and Misk Day. So I have a feeling he was involved with the MPUV raft, if that's what we're going to see from them, as well as whatever the Misk ship is going to be, which possibly either a straight to flyable or a concept. We don't know which yet. With because we already know that Misk is going to have a small refining ship, so we'll get to hopefully get some more information on that because they also teased it at Citizen Con. But definitely, it's an hour long. It's actually very interesting. I find these actually more interesting to watch than some of the in depth stuff that they put out with the designing a background or designing a station or things like that, because it kind of brings them down to you get to know them as a person and see that these are people with real lives, and it just gives another feel to it when you get to see the people on a personal level, I guess. So, but definitely check that out. It's well worth it. And that brings us to the server meshing and the persistent streaming Q&A, and I'm going to let Jscale kind of cover this one.
More rambling. All right.
I can't do all the talking, man.
Oh no, that's fine. The CitizenCon panel on server meshing and persistent streaming. Good lord. They got a lot of questions, so they decided to do a follow-up Q&A. And then they put a lot of information in that was good. There's still some answers that people are looking for that they didn't give, and part of it's because they don't know the answer to it yet. So obviously, people led off with the when question. They said persistent streaming and the first version of replication. Ideally, we'll see that between Q1 and Q2 of 2022. So that's what release 317, release 318, somewhere around there. And then the first version of static server meshing, not dynamic, barring any unforeseen technical complications, we should see it Q3, Q4 of 2022. And I think a lot of their answers kind of highlight dynamic server meshing over static server meshing, and static server meshing is simply static. You can't scale it. So if the static server mesh that they've built only supports 50 players at a time, then that's what you get. It won't dynamically scale up. It won't dynamically scale down. So you'll be stuck at a player cap, a hard player cap, and performance issues along with it. So current state. The short answer that they gave was the current state of server meshing and persistent streaming replication is very advanced. The long answer, they broke out into several different sections. Object container streaming. This was required for server meshing to work, and this is basically streaming in all of those items, the guns, the picos, the helmets, the ships, the components, all of that stuff. Client side was released in 2018, also released the first step towards server meshing. Dynamic binding and unbinding of entities on the server side object container streaming. That first version was released in 2019. I have actually 21.19 in the notes. So in the future, way in the future. Entity authority and authority transfer. This is basically when you are trying to manage a whole bunch of objects across a bunch of servers working together in a group, you need somebody to be the traffic cop, somebody to know the state of everything as it goes across the vast landscape of the virtual simulation. So this is also very integral to getting server meshing done and working properly. Currently only a single server owns all simulated entities because we are currently in single server kind of simulations. We're not in mesh simulations yet. As a single server owns the whole simulation right now. To mesh multiple servers, they need to share the simulation, so someone has to control the entities. I just said that as well. I'm sorry, I'm reading the notes. They also need a method to transition the ownership between nodes. This is for scaling. It's also for hardening against failures and performance issues. But basically, that would be just passing the hat to another server so that somebody else would be the traffic cop. A good amount of development time was dedicated to this in 2020. First time the whole company worked on server meshing, as this impacts a lot of the game code. So basically, they spent a lot of 2020, several different teams across the company modifying the in-game code so that they could support the concept. It's not fully implemented yet, but they're working on it. Replication layer and persistent streaming. This is more of when you spawn a ship in a hangar and it's just a frame and then it slowly fills itself in. That's part of what you're seeing is the streaming. Persistent streaming is when you park a ship somewhere and when you go back, the ship is still there. We're not there yet. They need to move entity replication into a central place where the streaming and network bind logic could be controlled. Again, moving a service out of the dedicated server model and into a service layer. In this case, a replication layer. But basically, again, there's a single server that's running all of this stuff for us. In order for them to do server meshing, they need to pull all of these services out and present them to multiple servers at a single time. Persistent streaming was implemented. It allows, I think I already said this, it allows things like guns and gun racks on a ship or a water bottle dropped on the floor of your 315P to be there every time you pull your ship, unless you have to claim it. 2021 was dedicated to work on the replication layer and the entity graph. They talked about the entity graph database in the CitizenCon panel. Go back and watch that if you're interested. It's almost complete and it's in the final stage. It's static and dynamic server meshes. Work started and will take into next year to complete. Again, they said they're looking to get static server meshing running in Q3, Q4 of next year. First version will be static server mesh, and it is the next big stepping stone because if they can get the static server meshing running, they can start to gather some more data while they're working in parallel on the dynamic mesh, which is what we all are looking for. And that starts to get to where we see shards that are able to scale up and scale down. Let's see, skipping. Still requires multiple game code teams to modify existing game code to fully work. So there's still a lot more work there of overhauling legacy code. Entity authority is currently limited between the client and a single server. Some code may need additional adjustments. So basically, um, they need to they need to get this stuff running to see what breaks. How do you plan to manage large ships like the Javelin? Would you drop a Javelin on its own server? They go into a lengthy explanation around how doing that might make performance for the Javelin and everything on the Javelin run great, but it could also make the Javelin run very poorly depending on how many people are on it. It also causes problems for dynamic server meshing because it starts to put hard rules on something that you don't want hard rules on. So if they've got, say, a server that is running high and there's a large load on it, players will start to see that. In dynamic server meshing, they're going to be able to spin up another server and start moving some of that load onto other servers. Likewise, if there are servers that aren't really doing a whole lot, they can start to spin those down and save money and resources and start consolidating things down and then kind of go back up. Anybody that's worked on server virtualization back in the day, that was a feature that everybody was looking for, especially for web farms and things like that. So no, you will not get a dedicated server to run your Javelin. It may end up that way by the dynamic server auto balancing stuff, but not necessarily dedicated. How many players will be able to see each other in one space? What's the max player count you are planning? The simple answer is without testing, tweaking, optimizing, they don't know the maximum. They're aiming for a capacity of 100 players being able to see each other in a single place with reasonable performance. They need multiple systems contribute to the limits, and they used the Vulkan as one of the examples of one of the systems that contributes to the performance. And the graphics team is working on Vulkan to increase its capabilities to handle larger loads. And so that will mean larger player counts in a single area without terrible performance. The likelihood of every single player within a shard being able to go to one place without performance hits will decrease as they begin to scale shards. Whew. There
So,
you
I
go.
mean, that's definitely going to play a factor, especially when you're talking about javelins, because I mean, the max crew on that I think is listed at 80. So, I mean, if you have every station, every area manned, that's an 80-person ship max crew. So, yeah, you're going to need to be able to have a lot of people in one area at one time.
Yeah, and I look at like server meshing. What they're doing, and a lot of what they're describing is, you know, for folks that worked in infrastructure and systems engineering back in the day, you would build out these big, huge server farms, right? You'd have to scale the server itself because the way applications were written back in the day to run, kind of like what we're doing with the PCs, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're running a gaming PC, you want as much horsepower and as much graphics processing and as much memory on that single PC as you can.
Right.
Once you start to virtualize servers, you start to virtualize code, you can start to spread that load out, right? You can start to farm it out to other CPUs on other systems, and it's basically how mainframes used to work back in the day. They still do technically. So a lot of people that were running like Microsoft Windows server farms um, jumped at like VMware and other virtualization technologies because you could start to consolidate down onto larger. In the beginning, it was larger servers running multiple virtual servers, and then as the technology has developed, you virtualize the network, so you no longer need these big beefy switches. You start to virtualize the security applications, and code continues to develop. You start to develop infrastructure as a code, and it all starts to run virtually. Like,
Yeah.
so you can have fewer machines or smaller machines running greater loads, and that way you have more redundancy. So if you lose a single small machine, it doesn't impact necessarily um, the entire virtual load all at once because it's just a small piece.
Right. So, I mean, it'll definitely be, I mean, when I got in 2 years ago, this was a pipe dream. I mean, they had been talking about it. Now we're starting to get through the first kind of tiers of moving into it and everything. So it's really exciting to see where they're taking this, where the goal is going to be for us to end up. And you look at where we've been, it's night and day. It's absolutely amazing that they're clearly on the path. It's not a pipe dream anymore.
Yeah, and I think some of the stability that we're seeing, I think it's because they're saying it here. I think they've been putting some of the stuff in place, and so the 30Ks were a number of different reasons the 30Ks are happening, but I believe a lot of it was because they were doing some of this transition while running everything on single server instance or just a handful of servers for 50 players.
Well, yeah, and as we've said many times before, compared to 2 years ago, the 30Ks are nowhere near as frequent as what they were 2 years ago.
Oh, even a year ago. I mean, I remember this time last year, I was about to give up because it was so bad.
Oh yeah, I mean 3.9 was horrible. You couldn't even run something from Ariel to Hurston without getting kicked off the server. So
Yeah, and that was my experience in 3.11 because I
yeah,
stopped in 3.11.
yeah, and it's funny to because I mean obviously it's a pain in the ass anytime it does happen, and it's kind of like one of those I walked uphill both ways in snow kind of things you tell your kids, you know, to say what used to be to get them to understand how good they have it now when you get somebody that's fairly new going, oh, these 30Ks, it's horrible, it's horrendous, it's too frequent. It's like, you have no idea, buddy. You couldn't play 30 minutes, 2 years ago without getting a 30K at one point.
No, and that was my experience in 3.11.
Yeah.
You'd get in and I'd get to the ship, you'd take off, and then 30K. It
Yeah.
was, and it was several 30Ks before it would get you'd get a window where you could go for more than 30 minutes.
Yeah. And now it's like, I'm lucky if I see one a week, if that.
Yeah, it's
So
crazy. It's a huge
the
improvement.
it's not as dreadful as what it used to be. Now they got the 30K persistence in too, which even makes it that much better that you're not going to lose your ship or your cargo or anything like that as long as the heartbeats are timed out right. So it's only gone up from there. So now we do have a question, and this is actually from BSM 88907 on Twitch, which actually is Danger. So I will let you know that's actually Danger Leprechaun there. So welcome, Danger. Thanks for throwing your question in there. And I'll skip the comments about him chugging 4 beers and nothing. But he does have a question. So each time I ended up at prison, he died from his own doing. Will he always respawn at the primary residence, which is Lorville? Now, if you died and went to Klesher and you leave Klesher, then I believe it is putting you back to your last known medical point, isn't it?
I think so, but Lorville will be Everest Harbor, right?
Yeah, Lorville is Everest Harbor because Lorville doesn't have a hospital. It will put you on Everest.
Yeah.
Danger says Orison.
Oh, well, then you'll be on Orison.
Yeah, I think in some cases you will see. Now, if you have a crime set and you die by means other than security or, called arms or anything like that, you'll end up waking up out on Grim Hex. But yeah, I should wake you up. I would think I've always been stationed out of Lorville, so I've been waking up on Everest when I got out of jail. But I think it should wake you up at your last known medical point. I think he was. Somebody told him he could get. Oh yeah, you told him
That's
they could get
me.
intoxicated.
I know.
So,
I'm
just
having a
take.
hard time believing that Danger would actually end up in Klesher, though. I mean, how would he
Right?
get there?
That doesn't sound like him.
Not Danger. No,
It doesn't sound like him. He's innocent.
Danger would
Yeah.
never end up in jail. He's an innocent person. He's testing now and again. So yeah, actually, I was on with Danger the other night. So him and Crywell were off doing something while I was running some bounties with our buddy Ghost. So, but yeah, I think you should be waking up on your last known medical point where your imprint is. And definitely, anybody that has any questions, please feel free to throw them in the Twitch chat. We'll definitely answer everything we can possibly answer for you. And I mean, for the most part, that's all the news and information that's come out in the last week. I want to remind everybody one thing I forgot to go over again is with 315.1, the easy anti cheat is coming in with the game. So this is actually going to keep you from launching your game if you're running a mod that it doesn't like. Now, mods can be anything that changes the DLLs, the game files, things like that. And off the starting line, easy anti cheat will most likely kill everything, which means you're not going to be able to launch into the game until you remove those files, the mods, off your system. Mando, you've been able to get into PTUs, so I don't think you're really, unless you removed it, I don't think your reshade's getting blocked though.
No, I haven't had any issues with it yet.
So that was one thing I know you brought up as a huge question was reshade. And of course,
Yeah,
we know that reshade is a gateway for people to get in and make adjustments other places that they shouldn't be. But if you're using reshade for the graphical situation, then you should be fine.
yeah, that was something that came up on Tomato's stream too, because he uses it a lot for his his visuals and stuff. And I really hope they come up with some way to whitelist it, because it does help. I mean, it's pretty nice for the creative community,
Yeah.
but also they're until they get the visuals kind of dialed in and get some of the features built into the Vulkan engine and stuff like that, it helps kind of compensate for some things that it's lacking.
Yeah, and actually, we talked about it last week, and one thing I did find out going through the different information on Reshade is that there are versions of Easy Anti Cheat that automatically whitelists it, and which may be one of the versions they're using. That's why it didn't affect you. I would say if it didn't affect you, then it seems like it should be working fine unless they didn't implement it with the PTU. I didn't see anything they did. They didn't. So it's possible it's up there and running, but I know that Easy Anti Cheat does whitelist reshade on certain versions. So hopefully they started with that. And there was a second program that somebody had mentioned with Easy Anti Cheat and Game Glass. Actually, somebody was asking about Game Glass as well too, and again, that's one that easy anti cheat automatically whitelist. So that won't be an issue for people either. So if you're using Game Glass, Reshade, I don't think you guys are going to really be affected by it. So, and Danger, we miss you too, buddy. Feel free to jump in and join us on the streams again one day. I know you've been playing a lot of different games out there. So overall, IAE, what are you guys looking most forward to?
Not the free fly.
Why is that?
It gets crowded. That's all.
It does, and I obviously, the ideal place to set your spawn once that comes to live is going to be New Babbage, so you don't have to fly out there. It may actually not be a bad idea to just fly out there, with how many people are probably going to be setting their spawns there. But yeah, I mean, I'd say fortunately the last two events though, the free flies have gone as far as like Invictus in the last IAE. Not talking about the smaller free flies in between, but they actually went pretty smooth. I think we definitely see a lot more um, inappropriate gameplay, I will say. I won't use the G word. But I think we saw definitely an increase in appropriate play at the time that the free flies do occur, obviously. Do you think that this new medical gameplay is going to ease that up a little?
No,
The
I
death,
don't.
you don't think the death with consequences will
No, I've seen too many posts, and I've actually seen a lot of this in the game itself, where people are running around in medical gowns or or just a flight suit, right? I mean, that's what I was doing. I was running around in a flight suit rather than trying to put armor and all that stuff on. So there's really not, since you don't have to pay to reclaim your ship. And most people's respawn or regen point is at the same place where their inventory is, which is their home residence. So, if they get killed griefing somebody, they go to prison, they come out, and I don't see it as a big barrier to any of the negative behavior. I think for those of us that are trying to stay on the right side or the positive side of the law, not
The
be
the
uh
proper way to play law.
yeah, however you want to put it.
Obviously, piracy is part of the game. It's a gameplay loop in the game, so I'm not going to call that inappropriate. But people who
Yeah,
take it to an extreme, yes, that is
yeah.
inappropriate.
It's more of a barrier for us, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I don't really think that the flesh or blood bugs that are going on right now are really going to be a huge deterrent because obviously a character reset and that just gets taken care of no problem. And
Yeah,
it's been going on for a few patches now, so I don't see that really being much of a factor there. But we always do see an increase in the whole griefing situation when the free flies, especially when large events are going on like IAE and Invictus.
yeah,
It's I don't know if it's just people who just want to be jerks or if people are just trying to keep people from enjoying and getting into the game.
yeah,
Which I mean, I'll always say the Star Citizen community is probably the best community I've seen as far as gamer communities. But no matter what you play, whether it be Destiny, World of Warcraft, Halo, Star Citizen, you always have that faction of people that just want to make it miserable for everybody else.
yeah.
So no, you'll never alleviate that.
No, but it also affects server performance too, or it has in the past.
Yeah,
Just making it more unstable and whatnot. But I
yeah,
think overall for IAE, for me, it's really the ships. Finding out what's new, looking at the new stuff. I've seen a lot of the stuff that's been in the game for a while now. So it's seeing that stuff and then trying out some of the stuff, or flying some of the ships you don't have, right? Because you can rent them for free and
yeah.
pick them up.
Any plans on grabbing anything specific?
I was looking at getting a Hull C and possibly another Endeavor, and then depending on what's new, looking at it and seeing if there's anything interesting there.
Yeah, I'm dying to find out if we were right on that ballista chassis thing.
If you go back and look at the video, the wheels are different.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting whether it's going to be a concept or if it's going to be a straight to flyable. And of course, this whole MISC uh, kind of tip that Jared's been given on the last Star Citizen Live.
Well,
I'm hoping it's a straight to flyable because I think a small refining ship for us would be good in the org because we do group mining, and if we had somewhere close by we could take it to refine it, that would keep us on site longer, especially when we're doing
s-
Quantanium.
so so here's why I'm skeptical that it's a refining ship that we're going to get in our hands at IE. They may announce it. I'm wondering if we're not going to get it until 316 because that's when they're putting work into mining,
Yeah,
and
with the
they
new gadgets and all.
yeah, and they specifically said the mining gadgets for to help the prospectors and the single player miners. And then they keep talking about recently they keep talking about how they're working on tractor beams as well.
Yep.
So I don't know if tractor beams are going to be needed, but I don't know. To me, I feel like they also mentioned at SitCon the MISC what do you call it, exploration ship to a large exploration ship to compete with the Carrack. So
Yep.
for me, I'm wondering if that's it. If they're it'll be a
Yeah,
concept that they
I
put
didn't
up.
even think about that. Yeah, it could be.
But it's interesting that MISC is not in at all when it comes to the simulated what do you call it, the showroom stuff that they did today and they're doing tomorrow.
Yeah,
I went
and
in.
if you
I
think, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I went and I looked at Anvil, and I have an idea. I won't share it here because you said earlier you didn't want any surprises, so or you want surprises, so I won't spoil anything for you. Um, I will say that the hollow. I did tell you that the hollow viewers are empty, so
Yep.
even the ship suite that we know about, like the Orion, not the Orion, the Perseus, the Polaris. They had the aquariums down there and they had the labels, but nothing was in them yet. So
Yeah, and actually, the last two events, I think they left the hollow viewers empty until the last day of testing. Then they said the hollow viewers were up, or the last 2 days of testing.
yeah, they
So
have
that's not uncommon.
yeah, they had like a hollow viewer for the Scorpius, and it had replace me balls in it. So
You gotta love the replacement balls. Mando,
Did they
what?
get rid of those?
Huh?
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna ask real quick. In Orison, there's still replace me balls around
It wasn't on the patch notes, so I have a feeling they did get them taken care of.
there. Oh, okay. Yeah, I hadn't been out there in quite a while, so yeah.
I think for the
Yeah,
most part, people try to avoid Orison just because of that transit time down through the atmosphere and back out. And I will say this: if you got a starfighter or an M50, you'll won't hate it so much anymore.
yeah, it's a long ride.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, as far as like the IAE goes and stuff, I don't really have anything on the radar right now that I want to buy off the pledge store. I mean, I would like to get my hands on an Ion at some point,
Hmm.
but I might wait for that in game.
Yep. And
And oh, sorry.
I was going to say, and obviously, when they come out with new ships, that's usually a patch cycle before you see it in game. So if it comes out in 3.15.1, you'll probably see it available to buy in game in 3.16.1.
Yeah, so I might be knocking on your door, Dark, every now and then for the Ion.
Oh, just let me know.
Um,
I'll pull it for you.
the other thing I was going to ask about it too is like, are they going to do like like in one of them they had like a javelin going around and doing rounds and stuff? Did they do that at IE?
not usually.
Yeah,
That's
No,
they do it for Invictus because that's the fleet week of Star
gotcha,
Citizen. So that's where they're showing off the military specific ships. So IAE does not usually have the Javelin and the Idrises flying around.
gotcha.
yeah. The difference though is that IE is going to have a ton more ships to fly and to
Yep.
look at and whatnot in the halls.
I mean,
'Cause-
basically, if it's flyable, you're going to be able to fly it.
yeah,
So, I mean, you just go rent it, you get it for 48 hours. And then at the end, over the final 3 days, the finale, you can rent every ship. So you're going to be able to rent things like the Glaive, the Blade. I don't think they throw the Scythe in there, but you'll be able to rent any of those that are flyable in the universe, as well as all the new ships with the Starfighters, as well as the Redeemer. You're going to be able to get A2s, M2s, C2s. Anybody that wants to run some cargo during that time frame is going to get free cargo ships to basically boost their AUEC while they can have them.
yep.
Now,
Yeah, that's very
oh, go ahead.
And I was going to say you can stand on the ice at New Babbage and you can watch the hapless individual that decides to try to take a redeemer up.
Yeah.
cool.
Now, also, don't forget, and I haven't mentioned this in a while, but the Caterpillar is getting a price increase once IAE goes live. So you're in the final days to be able to pick up the Drake Caterpillar at the 295 price range as far as a pledge. But also for those that have it, and my packs, I have one that I'm going to keep and another one in my other pack that I'm going to move up. I'm actually waiting to move it up until I find out what that price increase is, because if you CCU it, you get the full value at the current pricing when you do a CCU. Now, if you melt it, you only get what you originally paid. But if they, let's say you paid 295 for the Caterpillar, they increase the price to say 310 or 320, then if you CCU it, you get credit for that 320, even though you only pay 295. So if you're considering CCUing anything, uh, and you have a Caterpillar, if it's more than, 10, $15 from the current pricing, I'd wait until IAE comes out to see what they're going to increase the price to, so you can take advantage of that increased value with an upgrade.
And I think it might be too late because I don't see it on the standalone pledge list.
It's not. It's actually locked. But if you have the access to Pirate Caterpillar, it's the same price, and that's going to be going up as well too.
Yeah.
So, of course, if you got a buyback pledge, then you don't have to worry about it too much. But yeah, definitely if you're gonna grab it while you can. And yeah, because they closed off the access to it from the Day of Vara. So right now, the only people that can buy it right now is going to be those that have access to the pirate.
And if you have access to the concierge packs, you can get them. You
I
can get
don't
a
think,
pack that has.
I'd be surprised if they increased the pack prices because of that.
No, that's what I was saying. I usually don't notice a price increase when there's a ship in there that goes live.
Yeah.
But I was just saying that that would be another way you could get it. I mean, it's spending a lot more than $2.95 to get a ship,
Yeah.
though.
Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, I'm gonna see what I can move my Caterpillar up to at IAE with the increased value. Now I've heard rumors that it's only going to be a $15 increase. That they're only planning to move the price to 305 or 310. I anticipated that it was probably going to be less than $50, so that would probably fit in right with that. I don't really see them being able to take it over a $50 increase because you got the C2 at 400, and it's going to be hard to justify paying as much for a Caterpillar as you do for a C2 when the C2 holds so much more and flies, I think, much smoother. So, all right. So, anything else you guys are looking forward to?
Oh, just hanging out with you guys and checking out the ships.
Yep. And as a reminder, we will be streaming each night of IAE as the new manufacturers come in. We will probably launch the stream 7 p.m. Eastern time, just because I got to get home from work and actually take care of the dogs before we launch in. But we will stream from IAE each night of the event. Take a look at the floor, take a look at what's going on. It won't be as long as our normal streams. They'll probably be a couple hours long versus 5 hours. And we'll take a look at the new displays and what's going on, rent a couple ships and fly them around and see how everything goes. So make sure you join us for that. And don't forget that we also have our Twitch sub private stream on Saturday, the 27th, where we'll be able to get into IAE as well. That's going to be happening at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then also on the 28th, the following Sunday at 10 a.m. for our members only. At 10 a.m., like I said, we'll be doing the same thing, getting into IAE, doing some other adventures around the verse. And you can join either one of those by becoming a Twitch subscriber. You'll automatically be linked to my personal Discord server. If you attach your Twitch account to your Discord, you'll get popped in there and you'll be able to join us on that private stream. Or you can feel free to jump over to YouTube, hit that join button, and for as low as 99 cents a month, you can get access to my personal Discord server and join us for the YouTube members only stream. Each month we hold one for each platform on a monthly basis, and hopefully I'll see you guys there and look forward to joining you guys in the gameplay. And other than that, I got nothing else.
I was just putting in the thing that just a clarification on the IE schedule. The countdown shows that it looks like there's only one day for each one, but they are using the dual halls.
Yeah, so
So
as each one comes in, the other one will move to the other floor.
yeah, so
Yep.
it's just misleading.
Yeah, it can be, especially if it's your first IAE. I know my first IAE, I had no idea what was going on. So, but it's always a good time, I think, and I think we'll have a lot of fun. All right, anything you got for last closing thoughts there, J Scale?
I do not.
Mando?
Nothing here.
All right. Well, Mando, I want to thank you for joining us again tonight. It's been a great pleasure as always. Happy to have you back on with us. And J Scale, want to thank you for all the hard work that you put in with helping getting everything ready for today, and it's greatly appreciated. And I want to thank everybody watching at home. Thank you for joining us on the stream. Also, don't forget to catch our stream every Wednesday and Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, where we get into the verse. We play through several different gameplays. Sometimes we just do Star Marine or Arena Commander. But also follow on Twitch, and feel free to head on over to YouTube. You can also subscribe over there. We are taking entries for our November giveaway. I haven't announced the ship yet because I want to grab one of the straight to flyables at IAE to give away. And until I see what they are, I can't tell you what I'm giving away, but get your entries in now just by following here on Twitch, or head over to YouTube and subscribe and leave a comment on any video over there. If you do both, you get 2 entries and double your chances, but we'll be awarding a ship that we pick up at IAE on December 1st to one lucky winner. And if you want to help support the channel, hit that join button over on YouTube or subscribe here on Twitch. We greatly appreciate the support. We also have the Patreon and the merch storage, so check those out. All of that comes in through that goes right back to doing the giveaways that we do on a monthly basis, as well as on our streams here on Twitch. We occasionally have giveaways of some of our merchandise from our merch store. So feel free to get in on that as well. You just need to use the loyalty points to enter. And it's a great time for everybody. I love giving this stuff away to be able to give back to you guys. But want to thank everybody at home. You guys are awesome. And we will catch you next week on our next episode of State of the Verse, which hopefully we'll be doing from IAE. So thank you for everybody. And that is it for us.